Barbelo and Sige, similarities and differences. In the surviving Valentinian and Sethian traditions, both Barbelo and Sige occupy an exalted place in the emanational hierarchies that proceed from the first principle. While they share certain thematic and functional parallels, both associated with the primal act of manifestation from the ineffable source, they differ in imagery, theological role, and the systems in which they are embedded. Examining them side by side reveals how different Gnostic schools conceptualize the first movements of existence from the unmanifest. #C in Valentinian thought. In the Valentinian framework, seating silence is paired with Bythos, depth, the ineffable Father. The Valentinian Exposition describes the Father as the root of the all, the Ineffable One who dwells in the monad. He dwells alone in silence, and silence is tranquility since, after all, he was a monad and no one was before him. He dwells in the Dyad and in the pair, and his pair is silence, Valentinian Exposition. Here, Sige is not an independent source, but the eternal consort of depth, representing the stillness and hiddenness from which all comes forth. Theodotus summarizes, "They say that silence, who is the mother of all who were put forth by depth, with regard to what she had nothing to say, kept silence about the inexpressible, and with regard to what she did not understand, she called it incomprehensible." Theodotus 29. This portrays Sige as both a womb and a veil, holding the seed of emanation while concealing the ineffable nature of her partner. Irenaeus also records, "There existed along with him Bythos, Enna, whom they also call Charis and Sige. This Bythos determined to send forth from himself the beginning of all things, and deposited this production in his contemporary seed, even as seed is deposited in the womb. She then, having received this seed and becoming pregnant, gave birth to Nous, against all heresies. This maternal role makes Sige the conduit through which the mind, Nous, and Aletheia are born, forming the first tetrad. In Valentinian symbolism, Sige is thus tranquility, receptivity, and concealment, yet also the mother of the aeons through the mediation of depth's intention. She is defined primarily by her relationship to Bythos, representing the summatrix of creation, Barbelo in Sethian thought. In contrast, Sethian texts present Barbelo as the first aeon, the first visible manifestation of the invisible spirit's self-contemplation. In the three steles of Seth, she is male virginal Barbelo, the first glory of the invisible Father, she who is called perfect, light from light. Barbelo is not merely receptive. She is the first appearer, the initial image reflected in the aeonic mirrors that surround the One. The Apocryphon of John describes Barbelo as the first thought, protonoia, forethought, pronoia, and the image of the invisible spirit. She is the forethought of the all, the perfect power. She became the womb of everything. This dual nature, image and womb, means Barbelo is simultaneously the first emanation and the generatrix of the upper aeons. In trimorphic protonoia, Barbelo speaks directly. I am the thought of the Father, protonoia, that is Barbelo, the perfect glory. I am the image of the invisible spirit, and it is through me that the all took shape. Barbelo thus acts as an active shaper, the principle through which the fullness, pleroma, is ordered and populated. She is also mother of the aeons, Melchizedek, and the aeon giver, three stels of Seth, making the One numerous without fragmenting its unity. This creative multiplicity distinguishes her from Sige's stillness. Similarities between Barbelo and Sige. 1. Primal emanations. Both are positioned immediately after the ultimate source, Sige beside Bythos in Valentinianism, Barbelo before all other aeons in Sethianism. They mark the threshold between the ineffable and the manifest. 2. Maternal imagery. Sige is described as the womb that receives Bythos' seed, giving birth to new. Barbelo is the womb of everything, generating the upper aeons. In both systems, the first emanation has a generative and nurturing function. 3. Connection to thought. C is associated with the hidden will and tranquility of depth, a silent mental state preceding speech. Barbelo is explicitly identified with thought, enoia, protonoia, the first act of self-reflection. Both represent an intellectual or noetic aspect of creation. 4. Preservation of unity. Though they are the source of multiplicity, both preserve the unity of the One. Sige does so by remaining inseparable from Bythos, Barbelo by becoming numerable although continuing being one, three stills of Seth. Differences between Barbelo and Sige. 1. Relational versus autonomous. Sige's identity is relational. She exists as the consort of Bythos, defined by her silence and receptivity. Barbelo, by contrast, is presented as an autonomous hypostasis, the first glory, first appearer, and direct image of the invisible spirit. Bubber 2, active versus passive creation. Sige receives and conceals until the appointed time, functioning as the passive womb into which depth deposits the seed. Barbelo is actively engaged in emanation, shaping the all, producing the upper aeons, and blessing the one. 3. Theological role. In Valentinianism, Sige's role is primarily to facilitate the birth of new and aletheia. In Sethianism, Barbelo's role is broader. She is the first thought, mother of the aeons, an ongoing source of order in the pleroma. 4. Symbolic tone. Sige symbolizes hiddenness, serenity, and incomprehensibility. Barbelo symbolizes visibility, manifestation, and the glory of the Father made knowable. Conclusion. While Barbelo and Sige share a thematic role as the first feminine principles mediating between the ineffable source and the aeonic realm, their portrayals reflect different theological emphases. Sige is the silent depth, the receptive mystery that conceals and then releases the seed of thought. Barbelo is the brilliant first image, the active mother whose creative power shapes the pleroma itself. Both stand at the head of their respective systems, marking the point at which the unmanifest turns toward manifestation. Sige through stillness, Barbelo through light and action.